Welcome, everyone, to Truth in the Barrel, the NBC Studios New York edition. I'm Amy McGrath.
And I am Denver Riggleman.
And we are really excited because we just got off the set with the MSNBC talking about our new podcast. But there's something more important going on, I'd say, in the last 3 days, and it has to do with right down the street here, Wall Street.
Yeah, we're here.
And the collapse.
Yeah, we've lost 10% of the S&P over the last 3 business trading days. So, looking at what's happening right now, I think people are starting to actually understand that the policy that's being made by the Trump administration really isn't that great.
Yeah, but you're still seeing online and maybe your neighbors, people who are influenced by the right wing, say that nay, no big deal. This isn't that big
It's
of a
all
deal.
part of the plan.
Right. And so I think that we need to talk about that.
Yeah, because I'd like to know if losing $7 to $8 trillion is all part of the plan.
Yeah, we haven't even looked at our 401ks because I'm kind of scared at this point. But I think some of these arguments are out there and they need to be countered. So
Yes.
I'm going to go through a couple of them and I want to
Sure.
respond. Okay.
I'll respond, and these are pretty spontaneous too. People need to know. Here we go.
Yeah, he doesn't know what these arguments are, although you probably have a pretty good idea. Here's one. Trump is fixing global trade, the global trade imbalance that has plagued America for decades. The entire global economy is rigged to steal wealth from middle-class Americans and redistribute it to the whole world. Trump is putting an end to that. What do you say to that?
So here's what I say to that, Amy. This is actually a propaganda talking point that's actually flowed down messaging from the NRCC, which is the National Republican Congressional Committee, the RNC, which is the Republican National Committee, the whip teams in Congress, but from the executive messaging branch that sort of goes out and actually disseminates across all of the far-right propaganda outlets. It's ludicrous to think that a deliberate face shot to the American people is somehow part of this plan to actually control trade or to punish our trading partners for something that we've been able to pull off in the last 4 years when Biden was president, was actually to fix the economy, to fix COVID, as you were saying, right? We had Biden actually come in and do some real fixing here. Was he perfect? Nobody is. No president is. But what we have is a Republican administration led by pretty much an economic madman that's trying to message their way out of a complete collapse of the stock market.
Yeah, and we are the world's wealthiest country.
Oh, yeah.
And so to say that somehow it was rigged against us, I don't know. Here's another one. This is direct quote from Donald Trump, President Trump.
Goodness.
Okay, we lose trillions of dollars to China. China has become a very rich country because of people in the White House who have allowed this to happen. What do you say to that?
It's interesting. I think he's probably referring to the prior administration, right, in a way that they've been doing for 4 years, which was the propaganda and the ridiculousness that somehow there were secret dealings between the Biden administration and China, when it's really his family who has a lot of the dealings with China, as we know, which is facts-based. But what he's talking about, again, is he's trying to cover for what he's actually doing, right? And that's currying favor with multiple countries, thinking they're going to come to him as some kind of mad king, and he has to push the blame off on somebody else. But let's just put this in a defined economic way. He said that we lost trillions of dollars to China. We've lost 8 to 9 trillion in national wealth over the last 3 business trading days. 8 to 9 trillion. So I think the technical term for that is full of shit.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, here's another one. This is from Donald Trump. We are going to start paying our debt off with tariffs.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Here's the thing is that he has this weird sort of belief that 1870 to 1913 was the best time in the United States history, when we were actually crushing people with tariffs. We didn't have an income tax. And he blames the 1913 income tax, or the income tax when it came in, as sort of the downfall of America. What's interesting about 1870 to 1913, what people forget, is the average lifespan of Americans was probably about 50 years, right? We were still in horse and buggies at some point there. I think there's just this weird thing where they want to go back to, and let's be honest, 1870 to 1913, what is that time? It's white America. That's really what this is all about. This is a white nationalist, Christian nationalist message that they're trying to wrap in this economic wrapper. And I think, and again, if people look at this in a facts-based way, that's what they're going to come to the conclusion of based on what his policies and the fantasy policies that he has right now. We are not going to pay off our debt. By the way, I know we got to talk about debt and deficit, right? We're going to have one of those on Truth in the Barrel, the best podcast in the history of the United States. But I think what we have to look at right now is if we hit that 40 trillion mark, or we're not going to actually be able to somehow subtract $37 trillion in debt based on tariffs. It's so ludicrous. It doesn't even make sense. But again, this is the guy who believed that January 6th was a stolen election.
So here's the thing. You need to tune in to our Truth in the Barrel, where we do a deep dive into the federal budget and the debt and the deficit. Because what you'll find is that tariffs are, the revenue that we would actually get from tariffs would be a drop in the bucket versus like maybe Niagara Falls, okay, from trying to fix the debt. It's that bad. So it's a ludicrous statement.
Well,
it's not going to happen.
Here's the thing, our 401ks are screwed. But from what they said today with Lutnick, he said we can put the little screws in the iPhones now. So me and you, we have a future, Amy. We have a future in screws.
I know. That's great. All right, here's the last one. Okay. Well, actually, I want to hear what you have to say about this, because Republicans can stop this at any time. And the people that say, "Hey, this is Donald Trump's doing and Donald Trump alone," well, I got it. He deserves the vast majority of the blame, but so do Republicans. Congress has a role here. Congress could stop this anytime. And in fact, in our Constitution, Congress is supposed to play the primary role on these types of tariffs.
Yes, ma'am.
And this type of information and things that are going on. So why isn't Congress checking Trump's tariff power right now?
I think the first thing the American people need to realize, since I was in Congress, is that you lose 20 IQ points as soon as you're elected. So as I've said before, but here's the real thing. Intelligence and sanity are mutually exclusive from winning a congressional seat. And also, the only thing that a lot of these individuals care about are three things. And I said this on the show with Nicole Wallace. They care about their polling, their fundraising, and Trump's favorability rating in their district. They do not care about the American people. Congress is happy and willing to give up their power. There's another dirty secret in Congress. And I know people are going to be like, wow. If they can give away all of their responsibility, then what can you blame them for? They can blame the president when they're actually back in their districts. So what you're saying is like this passive aggressive power play by congressional members who want to feast, on the scraps of Trump's table. They want to be under there feeding on the scraps, but when everything fails, they're going to say, hold on a second, this was all Trump's doing. We were always fiscally conservative. We just thought this guy was going to go a long way and do the right thing. So listen, they're hoping to have their cake and eat it too. They don't care about the American public, and what they care about is getting to Mar-a-Lago and literally just getting the scraps off of Trump's table, and that's where we're at right now.
And here's the bottom line. These tariffs are terrible, okay? What Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing is hurting our economy right now. Don't let anybody tell you different.
Well, that's another Truth in the Barrel podcast live. Well, sort of. From MSNBC Studios,
New York City.
From New York City. Listen, you have got to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You've got to go to any pod of your choice and download that. Follow us on all of our social media channels, whether that's Blue Sky. We're on X/Twitter. True Social. We're that brave.
Bring it.
Well, it's just a bunch of digits and electrons. So the hell with those trolls.
YouTube.
Oh my God, we're on everything.
Yep.
That's because we're badass. And I'm with badass Amy McGrath. And thank you for tuning into Truth in the Barrel.